The end of an era. CBS Radio News is going to shut down after nearly a century. We'll hear from one of the network's anchors and correspondents.
What does a television news producer do? Well, we'll spend the day in the life of a producer in Florida.
It's part of your life. It's happening around the clock. Sometimes you love it, and sometimes you don't.
It's not convenient. It's unpredictable. It changes lives, including yours. You are enrolled in the news classroom.
Hello, I'm Steve Bowers.
And I'm Steve Beverly.
September 28th, 1927. That was the day our nation had a new voice in the young medium of radio.
CBS Radio News served the big cities, the flyover states, and rural America with the headlines that affected our lives.
It's the network of Edward R. Murrow, Lowell Thomas, Douglas Edwards. But it's going to sign off for the last time May 27th. That day will mark the end of an American broadcast era.
August 24th, 1940.
This is Trafalgar Square. The noise that you hear at the moment is the sound of the air raid siren. I'm standing here just on the steps of St. Martin's in the Field. A searchlight just burst into action off in the distance. One single beam sweeping the sky above me now.
The sounds of the London Blitz in World War II. The voice belongs to a legend, Edward R. Murrow, known as the father of broadcast journalism. Millions listened on CBS Radio News.
Now, direct from CBS News, this Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
For more than 98 years, the men and women of CBS Radio News have been there for us during wars, presidential assassinations, and during the good years.
CBS News. The United States government is technically broke at this hour. This is John.
But in the current era of turbulent economics for the entire broadcast industry, the staff was told in late March that the ride of nearly a century is over. And here to talk with us as to what is an absolute bittersweet moment in the history of broadcast journalism is Peter King, who is an anchor and, more importantly, space correspondent for CBS Radio News. And we're going to be talking to him about that, as well as what it's like to face the end of what has been an institution. Steve, why don't you give him the first question?
Well, let's talk about that. Is this the end of a whole different element in broadcast history?
Well, it's certainly the end of broadcast history for CBS News Radio. I can't say that it is the beginning of the end of a whole element of it, because you still have some players out there in terms of ABC News Radio. iHeart has NBC News Radio. That's NBC is licensed to them. It's not really NBC, but they have a cooperative agreement with NBC. And you have Fox News Radio, which does a creditable job and is on a lot of stations too. I think I've always felt that there was always going to be a need for providers, and whether it be programming, news, whatever, for local stations. And these three services and I'm sure some smaller services will wind up picking up affiliates after we go dark on May 22nd. We have some 700 radio stations on the network, and I am sure they are ripe for the picking by those who are left.
Tell me this, what was it like for you and some of your colleagues the day you got the message that this was all coming to an end?
Well, I don't think that any of us were totally surprised And yet it was really, really a gut punch that it was happening right now, because so many things are happening and there is so much going on in the news cycle. And, we had just changed distributors, and we're trying to hit the ground with that and a new sales organization, because quite frankly, you don't sell, we don't get paychecks, and we need the advertising dollars to stay in business. But it was absolutely a gut punch. And, for those of us who've invested a lot of time and effort and livelihood into CBS News Radio, it's absolutely heartbreaking to see it end.
The revenue situation, did CBS just not believe any longer in the viability of radio? Is that what they're saying? Or was it their own organizational challenges? What was up here?
Well, I've seen numbers in print, and I don't know what numbers are real. I've heard everything from, the radio network was losing money, to it was breaking even or coming close to that. I find it hard to believe that with 700 radio stations on the network that we had problems attracting advertisers. But the new management, the new ownership, they made it very, very clear from the first meetings that radio was not on their radar, because it was never mentioned in any of their discussions with anybody.
Peter, let's talk about one thing that is upbeat, and that is your final big assignment. You have been covering the launch and the journey of Artemis, and that just exciting time of going further into space than any manned team has ever gone. What's it been like for you to do that? Because you've covered a lot of launches. What's it been like to do that?
Well, I've covered space for more than 30 years, and almost 30 years here at CBS. And for me, it's bittersweet knowing that this is the last one for me to do, at least here at the network. On the other hand, if you got to go out, this is a really nice way to go out. And quite frankly, look, when I was a kid, I knew I didn't have the science chops to be an astronaut. Plus, I wore glasses, and at the time, you couldn't wear glasses and be part of the astronaut course. So forget that. On the other hand, I felt like, okay, well, I know a bit about it, and I could learn more about it and learn to report on it. And, that dream came true in the mid-1990s after I had moved to Florida and was filing stories for my local station, WWNZ, here in Orlando, and occasionally for the network as a stringer. And in 1997, they asked me, would you be interested in covering the shuttle for us? And it's like, are you kidding me?
Peter, I know, one of the personal questions, what's ahead for the people that were at CBS News? One of the questions we get all the time now from parents is like, well, is journalism a good career for my son or daughter to pursue? What do you tell people?
This is a really tough time to be a journalist. Take a look from the White House on down, where people are attacking us verbally, sometimes attacking us physically, calling us fake news, liars, failing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're going to be a journalist, you can't be a cheerleader. You have to tell it like it is and be prepared to stand your ground or find something else to do. Major media companies have shown in many ways that they have no backbone right now. There are a lot of local media companies or smaller media companies that do indeed practice great journalism, and there are a lot of national providers that practice great journalism. I tell anybody who wants to go into journalism, right now is a really tough time, but stick to the principles that make for good ethical journalism. It's important to get it fast. It's important to get it first, but it's most important to get it right and to report fairly. All of those things. This is really, really hard time, and nobody ever wants a target on their back, but a lot of people have put targets on our backs over the past 10 years, and there was a great Great quote from the late New York Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Said, "You are entitled to your opinion. You are not entitled to your own facts." And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Peter, we're so grateful to you for your time, and thank you for all of the great work that you have done for CBS Radio News and are continuing to do right up until the very end of the network. And Godspeed to you. We do thank you for being with us.
Steve, thank you very much for having me.
And coming up next, many of you have asked the question, what does a news producer do? Well, we're going to take you inside the job of one in Florida. And we'll have that for you next on News Classroom.
The question we've had from many of you is, exactly what does a news producer do?
And the answer is more than you think. On this edition of News Classroom, we're going to journey down to a television station in north central Florida. We'll follow a producer in the newsroom as he makes his rounds from the start of his day to the end of an hour-long newscast he produces. Focus, concentration, organization, communication, and the fastest fingers in Florida. This is a day in the life of Ian Castro, an experienced news producer at WCJB in Gainesville, Florida. Gainesville, one of America's fastest growing cities, a place where the word Gators and the colors orange and blue rule. At least 8 rural counties have a close connection with Gainesville. People all over north central Florida have issues just like the bigger cities. They expect those to be covered by local television news. Enter Ian Castro. This is Ian's home for 9 hours every day. He comes to work most days around 1:30. His job? Produce the 1-hour 4 o'clock news on WCJB and the half-hour 10 p.m. news. It's not a job for everyone. It is for Ian. He's been at it for 4 years.
In order to get into this market, to this field, I accepted a video editing job here and was quickly thrown into, oh, do you know how to write? Do you know how to produce? I said no to my newsroom manager. He's like, well, we'll get you there.
Ian will spend literally hours during his day staring at these screens. It's not a magnetic stare.
Thank you.
At these 2 computers, Ian and the other producers at WCJB will do this. Decide on a lead story, one that is a main item affecting north central Florida and most likely to get your attention. Structure the newscast. Build an order and flow of the day's stories. Communicate with reporters in what's known as the bullpen at Channel 20. He tells them how much allotted time they have for their stories. He may ask specific questions about those reports. Communicate with his anchors, who will be on camera for that hour. Today, veteran Myra Monroe will be in that role at 4 o'clock. And keep the newscast on time. The broadcast starts at 4 and ends precisely at 4:57 and 30 seconds. He has no option of going long.
It's a bigger responsibility to do an hour-long one, but you have so much more flexibility.
It's communication that's the key word for any news producer.
Definitely connected with everybody through here, but also I got to walk around the newsroom, talk to the reporters, the reporter bullpen over there. You got managers over there, so it's just constant communication.
Ian was trained to move into the role of producer. The training was not finished, but one day
I was thrown into the 4 and 10 o'clock newscasts, into the fire, as any newsroom will be aware of. And it's just been a passion of mine since then.
He may answer a dozen or more phone calls during the day concerning news, but others on staff, including forecaster Autumn Dancy, help shoulder the load.
My name is Autumn. I'm one of the weather forecasters here and part-time reporters.
On one computer screen, Ian builds his 4 o'clock lineup. If picture graphics have to be built for, say, a crime story, Ian will create those on his keyboard.
I'm a UCF graduate, University of Central Florida. There was 2 different tracks at UCF, where there was the news track as well as the video editing track, and I did video.
Well, that college major was great preparation. Ian may edit video for several 20 or 30-second stories that his anchors will deliver. He does it right here.
I wrote I-75 mile marker 340 in Marion County, Highway 484 exit, camera looking southbound, and then he kind of takes up the rest of the time.
3 o'clock. Myra joins 5 and 6 o'clock anchors David Snyder and Paige Beck, along with evening producers Daniel Perea and Carl McKinney, along with assignment editor Wyatt Turbeville.
Thinking about ways to follow up on the St. Francis story, which we did a good job on yesterday. But, you know,
they discuss stories for the 5 and 6 o'clock news and possible leads for the late news at 11.
And that night they got that extra bill for $900,000. Oops, my bad.
You don't usually see Ian Castro at this meeting, though he may listen in on phone. Because his newscast is the first of the afternoon at 4, he has to make last-minute additions and be prepared for a breaking story or a late update.
Yeah, I think tonight, you know, the Gator send-off, but just to say.
Absolutely, Gator send-off.
Across the hall, the meeting winds up.
The newscast goes on at 4 o'clock, whether you're ready or not, and roll with the punches and print it again.
3:45, an important piece of business for Ian, printing out his lineup and all the scripts. This is everything the anchors and all reporters will read during the newscast. 3:50, Ian enters the electronic maze of the Channel 20 control room. This requires a different set of concentration. Myra and Autumn are in place on the set. In the control room, the director decides which camera is on the air.
Now at 4, the city of Gainesville is getting more than $10 million in grant money to...
This is First Look at 4 on WCJB TV 20, your local station.
Ian is constantly on headphones, throwing cues to the anchors or to a reporter delivering a live report.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Where some Republican lawmakers are pushing to...
The most important thing for any producer is to remain calm. Even if technical problems develop or breaking stories have to be added, calm is critical. Ian is one of the best at it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Spring is just a few days away. Autumn will have warmed up by then. It feels a little like winter still.
I know, Myra, our nighttime temperatures are going to stay cool, but after spring starts, the haze will be...
His computer has a digital timer to help him keep the newscast on time.
It shouldn't be here. It should be right here on Friday.
Ian is as focused in the control room as he is in the newsroom. This is one day where the unexpected didn't happen.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
At last, 4:57:30 comes. The newscast ends without a hitch.
Thankfully today, it's going to say clean. These get sent out to the newsroom there. And that's 2.5 minutes for the 5 o'clock newscast. The director's already there, and the producer will be coming in for the 5. Yeah.
So you'd think Ian might crash at his desk for a half hour. Not so. He has to think about another newscast to assemble for 10 o'clock.
I'm always looking at stories on Facebook or see what the manager group chat has in store for me. But yeah, it's about a 4 to 5 hour turnaround. Depending on the anchor, you're going to have probably...
He organizes an hour and a half of news every weekday. He writes, he edits, he creates graphics, he communicates with his anchors and reporters. And yes, when he arrives home around 11, Ian Castro does take it easy.
I'm a late night owl. I'll stay up until 2 or 3 o'clock just to do it all over again the next day.
He is the offensive coordinator of the 4 and 10 o'clock news.
We try to put on the best newscast every single day.
Well, we have him here now with us on News Classroom, and Ian Castro, producer of the 4 and 10 o'clock news at WCJB, and he's had an opportunity to meet Steve Bowers. So, Steve, why don't we try to grill him a little bit about what life is like from what we did not see during the piece that we just aired?
All right. We are dealing with the unexpected. Ian, you got your newscast set, it's 3 o'clock, story time or whatever, you're heading to 4 o'clock. And then something dramatic happens. You get word that the mayor's unexpectedly going to resign from office, or something catastrophic happens downtown. So what happens to you and to the news team at that point?
Yeah, of course. So an hour before the newscast would be a blessing. I told that to Mr. Beverly when he saw what the day-to-day was like. It's about when it's 5 minutes before the newscast or during the newscast. There really wasn't something too far off that happened, I believe, last year, where the Gainesville city manager resigned, and we had to get that into the newscast within about 30 minutes into the newscast, and we had to make sure all the facts are correct. It's always constant communication from every single department, every single angle, in order to get that into the show.
Who are the key people you communicate with, particularly if you have to make sudden or last-minute changes?
I'll list 3. There's going to be the director, who's making sure that everything is going on air. You want to make sure that if you have to rearrange a story, that they are aware of it and that they have the tools necessary to make sure that makes it to air. You have your anchor, who I communicate with through a headset in the control room. And it's not like the anchors just scrolling on their phone, liking Instagram posts. They are looking at the stories that we have in the newscast, making sure that they're accurate and making sure that they don't have any errors to them throughout the newscast. And then there's also going to be the assignment manager, who, yes, she has her desk, but she's going to be running around the newsroom. She's going to fly into the control room if there needs to be something changed. So it's that constant communication between us 4.
Yeah, and I think it's very important for people to understand that this is happening while this anchor is on the set, the news director is directing this newscast, and you're chirping in their ear and changing their world right there on the spot. Are there other people that are designated? You've got to get news copy in and a lot of other things. Are there standby people designated in each circumstance that you can call on?
We have 2 associate producers who act as video editors. So they are going to be able to put in the video elements to a breaking news story that we have. We have the 4, 5, and 6 o'clock producer. My newscast is called The First Look at 4. So we have the 5 and 6 who are able to get in a breaking news story. If I'm covering the A block of a newscast, they can work to get it in at the end of that block or into the B block of the newscast.
I watched you over a period of about 4 hours, and you are as unflappable as anybody I have seen in the role of a producer. But I have to ask this. This is a tense, it can be an extremely stressful job during the course of a given day. What do you do for a diversion to try to calm the nerves or to get your mind away from it?
So Monday through Friday for the 9-hour shift that I'm doing, it's going to be get away every couple of minutes, text my fiance, check the score of a Major League Baseball game because I'm a big baseball fan, just to de-stress there. On the weekends, because I don't work the weekends, just like taking a break from the news. Today's like I'm gonna go into my shift later today and be acquainted all with what's happened over the weekend. The Gators just lost to Iowa, so always making sure that I'm aware of what's going on, but not reading all the articles. That's going to be for when I'm on the clock. I'll make sure that I'm following everything in depth, but it's taken a couple steps back.
Ian Castro, we wish you continued success at what you do, an outstanding producer for WCJB in Gainesville, Florida, and I can tell you from firsthand knowledge that it's one of the fine small market news departments in America, and it is in very good hands with this guy. Ian, thanks so much for your time, and I hope we can visit with you again.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure to talk to you guys.
And coming up next, Steve and I will have quick takes in which we answer your questions on News Classroom. Time now for this month's quick takes, and it's our perspective on the questions that you have about news.
If you've got a question about how the news business works, all you have to do is email us at tv6newsclassroom@gmail.com. tv6newsclassroom@gmail.com.
Well, Steve, you get the last word on this question, and it comes from Charles of Jackson, Tennessee, and it's a good one. With a declining number of news sources that we have, especially daily newspapers, how do you think that is affecting people's interest in local elections, especially when it comes to voter turnout?
The absence of the newspaper, I think, is really felt as far as sometimes the local issues that are exposed and talked about within the community. You lose the editorial page and the reporter resources that a daily newspaper used to bring this community. Those have gone. And so what happens in its place, we don't know yet. Can social media and other media sources that are developing out there build the impact? Steve, there may be a day when social media drives these campaigns and the interactions and stimulates interest in these. It just hasn't happened yet, not at least in our area. So the news media is declining in its traditional ways and methods, and something is replacing it. And I hope and trust that one day that will fuel interest in what's going on locally, because right now I think there is a real vacuum. So the question is from Donna. She watches us on YouTube, and she said, I have a daughter who's very interested in a career in journalism. What advice would you give her?
Well, you heard some of the things that Peter King just mentioned to us about how it is a turbulent time in journalism right now. One of the things that I would add to what Peter had to say is this. You should, in any instance, when it comes to journalism, if there is anything in your life that you have an interest in that you think you would rather do, don't go into journalism. And the reason I'm saying that is because it takes huge commitment. When you first start out, you're not going to make a great deal of money. And in fact, you got to stay with it about probably 10 years before you are going to get to a level, assuming that you move up the ranks, to where you are making a decent income. But it really is important for any student to know the facts straight off. Well, Steve, once again, the bell is ringing, and that brings us to the end of this session of News Classroom, and we thank you all at home for being with us. I'm Steve Beverly.
I'm Steve Bowers, and join us next time for News Classroom.